Several hundred schoolboys kidnapped in northern Nigeria last Friday have arrived in their state capital after being freed from the neighbouring state where it's thought they were held by gunmen in a forest. The boys, all 344 of them, according to the governor of Katsina, will be visited by doctors before being reunited with their families. Boko Haram said they carried out these abductions, but Nigerian government officials are blaming criminal gangs, possibly with some connection to the Islamist militants. Haruna Tangaza from our BBC Hausa service gave me this update earlier from the Nigerian capital, Abuja.
Information reaching us from Katsina City now is that these boys have returned to Government House, Katsina, where they were first brought by the military and handed over to the governor after they were taken to a particular location in that city where they clean up themselves. So they are now wearing new look, they are wearing new clothes, and they are looking neat now. Ahead of their meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari, who is currently on a visit to Katsina State, which is also his home state, is going to address these students and try to calm them down before they are reunited with their parent.
And what is the government saying about who took the boys, whether this was ideologically motivated or a criminal attack?
Well, the prevailing opinion on the government and security expert here is that these kids were taken by the armed bandit who have been terrorizing communities in those areas. Even though Boko Haram militant group has claimed responsibility for the attack, but nobody seemed to believe them. Even the governor of Zamfara State, where they were held and who mediated their release, insisted that these armed bandits were behind the abduction of these 344 school children.
Well, Boko Haram has become notorious over the last decade for school kidnappings. The group's name loosely translates as Western education is forbidden. So let's take a look now at the wider picture. In April 2014, Boko Haram kidnapped 276 girls from their school in Chibok in Borno State, and around 100 of those girls are still missing. That abduction and others up to now have taken place in northeastern Nigeria, where Boko Haram is based. But despite its claim now, the Nigerian government says the Katsina abduction was carried out by local gangs, perhaps connected to the Islamist group. Armed attacks and kidnappings are rife in northwestern Nigeria and often blamed on bandits, a loose term for the gangs operating in the area. Amnesty International says more than 1,100 people were killed by bandits in the first 6 months of this year, with the government failing to bring the attackers to justice. I've been talking to Shehu Sani, a former senator for Kaduna State in Nigeria and a human rights campaigner who believes it was criminals rather than Boko Haram acting as the main force behind this kidnapping. He believes a ransom was paid to get the boys released.
In the last few years, the bandits have been kidnapping people and collecting ransom, and it is technically impossible to have freed those boys without a ransom being paid. But it may be strategic that the government don't want to encourage kidnapping and payment of ransom by publicly disclaiming that ransom was paid. But it is very much impossible to have freed these boys from the hands of these bandits without an exchange.
And in your view, these aren't the tactics of Boko Haram?
As you are aware, but Boko Haram have been most active in the northeastern part of Nigeria, and they are populated by the Kanuri tribe, and the bandits in the northwestern part of Nigeria are mostly the Fulani tribe. So even with the audio claim of Boko Haram, I never believe it is Boko Haram because it is logistically impossible for Boko Haram to operate in the northeast and the northwest. So the fact that they were released within 48 hours of their kidnap shows that it was the bandits. And certainly if they were the Boko Haram that kidnapped them, that could not have been the situation, because the differences between the Boko Haram and the bandits is that the Boko Haram have a leadership, they have a structure, and they have a religious, theocratic, and political agenda. And the bandits are only motivated by money, ransom, kidnapping, and displacement of people. So it is the fact that they were kidnapped by bandits, and there must have been behind-the-scene negotiation between the bandits and the government.
So the government has, in a way, a double challenge. There are different motivations behind the kidnapping of children. What more do you think the government can do to keep children safe?
Well, first of all, what they have done for the meantime is the best, to close down the schools and then take active measures in terms of protecting students. But unfortunately, the ideological focus of the Boko Haram, that is their campaign against Western education, may have been a success with schools being closed, but it is necessary for now. After that, then efforts should be made to secure schools. But for now, it is unsafe to have boarding schools, especially in flashpoints and areas where the bandits have been laying siege in about 5 states in the northwest, Katsina, Sokoto, Kaduna, Zamfara, and parts of Niger State, which is neighboring to the capital city. So the government now need to protect the schools, protect the students, provide infrastructure for such protection before students should be allowed to return back to their schools.
Former Senator Shehu Sani.